I want you to start off today by doing something incredibly simple. Just lift up your hand and look closely at it.
Yeah, really look at it. Like, what exactly do you see?
Right, because if you rely on your everyday vision, you probably see, flesh, bone, maybe some
The
wrinkles.
texture of your skin, all that stuff.
Exactly. It's a solid object.
Yeah.
It belongs undeniably to you. You can, clap it against your other hand, feel the impact, hear the sound.
It feels permanent, right? It feels real.
It really does. But what if I told you that what you were actually looking at is a temporary swirling galaxy of microscopic dust?
I love that visual. Because it's true. What if everything you think of as solid, as fixed as, well, you, is actually this elaborate illusion created by a faulty lens?
And that is, it's an incredible cosmic optical illusion.
It really is. We are moving through a world made entirely of space and energy, yet our biology forces us to experience it as a series of heavy, unyielding walls.
Right. And that optical illusion isn't just some fun physics thought experiment to discuss at a dinner party.
No, not at all. It is literally the root cause of an enormous amount of everyday human suffering.
Which brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today. We are back in our ongoing journey through the Diamond Sutra, and today marks a massive pivot.
A huge pivot. We are cracking open chapters 25 through 30 today.
Right, a section focused on what we'll call the inconceivable senses and the world. And our goal for the next hour or so is pretty ambitious.
To say the least, we are trying to fundamentally dismantle how you perceive reality.
Exactly. We want to shift your perspective from that everyday, limited, kind of panicky vision to the vast, mind-bending perspective of the Buddha.
And to pull that off, we are stacking some phenomenal sources for this deep dive.
Yes, we've got a great lineup. We are looking at classical Buddhist commentaries from the 4th century master Zhao,
alongside the profound 20th century scholar Nan Huaijin.
But we aren't just, leaving this in antiquity. We're fusing this ancient cosmology with modern psychology.
Yeah, we'll be pulling heavily from Jon Kabat-Zinn's foundational work on mindfulness, specifically MBSR, or mindfulness-based stress reduction.
And the really radical spiritual inquiry method developed by contemporary guide Byron Katie.
Which is crucial because we don't want this to just be abstract head-in-the-clouds philosophy.
Exactly. I promise you we are going to apply this ancient framework directly to a modern epidemic, which is appearance anxiety.
Oh, man. The immense, exhausting stress of trying to maintain a perfect, solid identity in a world that, quite frankly, refuses to start changing.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even begin to understand what the universe is made of, we have to examine the tools we're using to look at it.
Right, because if your lens is warped, your entire reality is warped.
Exactly. And the Diamond Sutra introduces a framework for this called the 5 eyes.
Yeah, the text sets this up with a series of rhetorical questions. The Buddha basically asks his disciple Subhuti, does the Tathagata have the physical eye, the heavenly eye,
The wisdom eye, the Dharma eye, the Buddha eye?
Right, and just to clarify, Tathagata is a title for the Buddha, meaning one who has thus come and gone.
Okay, good to know. Now, to be clear, right out of the gate, we are not talking about literal biological eyeballs floating around in space or something.
No, definitely not. You're not suddenly growing 3 more eyes on your forehead.
Good, because I think that would be highly distracting.
Very. No, they represent ascending dimensions of perception. They are completely different paradigms of processing information.
Okay, so let's start with the one we are all trapped in, the physical eye, or ruyan in Chinese.
Right, the ordinary human eye. And this lens is wildly limited.
Totally. It is entirely constrained by space, by light, by physical barriers.
Yeah, like if there's a plaster wall in front of me, my reality stops at the wall.
And if the sun goes down and I don't have a flashlight, I am effectively blind. The physical eye only sees the absolute surface of things.
It sees the skin on my hand, but it doesn't see the cellular structure, let alone the atomic reality vibrating underneath all that.
Right. And because of those biological constraints, the physical eye is heavily intertwined with our survival instincts.
Yeah.
And our ego.
It really is. It is the lens of judgment. It is the mechanism that looks at the world and instantly categorizes everything.
Like, can I eat this? Will this eat me? Is this mine? Is this beautiful? Is this ugly?
Exactly. Because it only processes the surface, it constantly feeds us delusional data.
Give me an example of that delusional data. How does it lie to us?
Well, think about seeing a beautiful sports car or, a beautiful face.
Okay, yeah.
The physical eye registers the smooth surface, the symmetry. It feeds that data to the brain, which immediately says, this is solid, this is permanent. If I possess this, I will be happy forever.
So you grasp at it. You try to hold on to it.
Right. Or conversely, you see something terrifying and the physical eye tells you, this solid monster has permanent power over you, so you panic and flee.
It cannot comprehend change.
Yeah.
It only sees static snapshots.
Exactly. The physical eye is basically a low-resolution camera that lies to us about permanence.
That is a terrifying thought. Okay, so that brings us to the second lens in the text, the heavenly eye, or tianyan.
Yeah. Now, the classical commentaries say this is attained through deep meditative states, or, in the cosmology, through divine birth.
Okay, and this lens transcends physical boundaries. It isn't blocked by walls or darkness.
Right. It can see the macro reality, the vastness of space, and the microscopic reality clearly.
So it sees the interconnected mechanics of physical phenomena.
Exactly. If you have the heavenly eye, you don't just see the plant, you see the specific mineral composition of the soil, the water absorption.
You see the photosynthesis happening in real time.
Yeah, you see the massive, complex web of cause and effect.
So if the physical eye is a standard smartphone camera, is the heavenly eye like upgrading to a combination of the James Webb Space Telescope and an electron microscope?
That's a great way to think about it. You can see the furthest galaxy and the smallest bacteria simultaneously.
Okay, wow, that sounds pretty ultimate.
You'd think so. You're pulling at the right thread, but let's twist that analogy a bit, because even if you have the James Webb Telescope, you are still fundamentally looking at physical stuff.
Oh, I see. You are still a separate observer looking at an object.
Precisely. The heavenly eye is an incredible upgrade in hardware, but it still operates within the realm of form.
So it sees the sheer complexity of the illusion, but it doesn't necessarily see through the illusion.
Exactly. You could have the heavenly eye, see a galaxy forming, and still mistakenly think, that galaxy is a permanent, solid thing. You haven't upgraded your operating system yet.
Okay, that makes sense. You can have 20/20 vision of the Matrix, but you still think you're in the real world.
That's it, exactly.
So how do we actually break the operating system? How do we wake up?
Well, that happens with the third dimension of perception, the wisdom eye, or huyan.
Historically, this is associated with the arhat, right?
Yes. In the Theravada Buddhist tradition, an arhat is a practitioner who has achieved total personal liberation from the cycle of suffering.
Okay, so what does the wisdom eye do?
It does something terrifying and radical. It looks at the universe and it sees the ultimate emptiness of all things. It sees the void.
Okay, I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because this is where I struggle, and I know a lot of people listening will push back on this too.
I get it. It's a tough concept.
When you say the void, or ultimate emptiness, that sounds deeply, deeply nihilistic.
Right.
Like if I look at my family, my career, my house, and I just see an empty void, why should I pay my mortgage? Who is remembering my childhood? That feels impossible to live with.
It sounds like a psychological breakdown, not enlightenment.
It sounds miserable.
That is the most common and honestly most visceral reaction to the concept of emptiness. But we have to define what emptiness, or sunyata, actually means in this context.
But please do, because I need some hope here.
Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It does not mean a black, depressing vacuum where nothing exists.
Okay.
It means that nothing has a permanent, independent self-nature.
Break that down for me. Give me an example.
Let's use your house. The physical eye looks at your house and says, that is a solid, permanent thing called a house.
Right. And I have to paint it every 5 years.
Exactly. But the wisdom eye looks at your house and sees that there is no independent houseness there.
What does it see instead?
It sees lumber from a forest, nails from an iron mine, the labor of a dozen carpenters, the money from your bank. It sees the temporary weather conditions holding off rot.
Wow, okay.
It sees that the house is constantly arising and passing away due to a million different causes and conditions.
So if a tornado hits it tomorrow, the house is gone, but the materials just changed form.
Precisely. The wisdom eye sees that everything is a temporary verb, not a permanent noun.
Okay, so it sees the radical interconnectedness of everything and the fact that nothing exists in a vacuum. It's empty of an independent self.
Exactly. But you touched on the exact danger of stopping at the wisdom eye. It can become a trap of extreme detachment.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, if you only see the void, if you only see the ultimate emptiness of phenomena, You might lose the drive to engage.
I can see that.
If a building is on fire and you only see the fire in the building and the people inside as temporary, empty aggregates of shifting energy, you might just sit there and watch it burn.
Yikes. Yeah, that's not good.
Right. You might retreat to a cave and just meditate until you fade away, because why bother?
Which is where the Diamond Sutra steps in, because this is a Mahayana text.
Yes, and the Mahayana tradition is all about the bodhisattva path.
Right. A bodhisattva is someone who achieves this massive realization, but consciously chooses to stay in the messy, painful world to help everyone else wake up.
Exactly. And doing that requires the fourth lens, the Dharma eye, or Fayan.
The Dharma eye. Tell me about this one.
The Dharma eye is breathtaking. It looks directly into the void, into the absolute emptiness perceived by the wisdom eye, and within that emptiness, it sees marvelous existence.
How does that actually work? How do you see existence inside emptiness?
By understanding empathy on a cosmic scale. The Dharma eye sees the specific relative conditions of all sentient beings.
Okay, so the bodhisattva knows the world is an illusion.
Right. But they also know that the beings trapped inside the illusion are experiencing genuine, agonizing suffering.
Ah, so they don't invalidate the pain?
Exactly. The Dharma eye doesn't dismiss their pain just because it's technically empty. Instead, it understands exactly what each person needs to wake up. It is the eye of profound, active compassion.
I love that. It's almost like being a lucid dreamer.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Like, imagine you were having a dream, and suddenly you realize, oh, I'm asleep in my bed. None of this is real. That's the wisdom eye.
Right.
But then you look over and see another character in your dream who's having a terrifying nightmare. They are running from a monster.
Yes.
The wisdom eye approach would be to tap them on the shoulder and say, you don't exist, the monster doesn't exist, get over it.
Which doesn't help them at all. They are still terrified.
Exactly. But the Dharma eye, the lucid dreamer, uses their power to change the dream.
Yeah.
You manifest a door for them to escape through. You engage with the illusion out of deep compassion.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You use the mechanics of the illusion to liberate people from the illusion.
That is powerful.
It is. Which leads us to the final culmination, the fifth lens, the Buddha eye, or Foyan.
The ultimate upgrade.
Yeah. And the Buddha eye doesn't destroy the previous four eyes. It completely integrates them. It is the ultimate synthesis of perception.
So it's not about rejecting the physical world entirely. I don't have to stop seeing my physical hand.
Not at all. True enlightenment, as symbolized by the Buddha eye, means you perceive the absolute truth of emptiness, the vast, ungraspable void of reality, but you simultaneously perceive the relative truth of everyday reality without any contradiction.
So you can hold both at the same time.
Exactly. You see the unvarnished quantum reality of the cosmos, but you can still sit down, appreciate the warmth of a teacup, and have a normal conversation.
You don't lose the physical eye. You just aren't controlled by it anymore.
That's the key. You're not a hostage to it.
This is a monumental paradigm shift. Because if we are brutally honest, you, me, the person listening right now, we spend 99.9% of our lives locked in physical eye panic.
We really do.
We obsess over a scratch on our car bumper. We spiral over a perceived slight in a coworker's email.
Oh yeah, we stare in the mirror and hyperventilate over a new wrinkle on our forehead.
Yes. We react to these surface-level illusions as if they are matters of ultimate life and death, completely blind to the vast, empty, interconnected reality buzzing just beneath the surface.
It's like we are playing a highly stressful video game, completely forgetting that we are the ones holding the controller.
And the Diamond Sutra wants to pry our fingers off that controller.
Exactly. To do that, the text takes us on a journey. It scales our perception all the way down to the smallest conceivable particle and then all the way up to the grandest structure of the universe.
Which brings us to the next section of our deep dive. Now that we understand the lenses of perception, let's point those lenses at the physical world.
Right, let's see what they actually reveal.
Like, what is this table I'm sitting at actually made of? We are diving into the sutra's concepts of microdust and the chiliocosm.
And this part is just wild.
It really is. I have to say, reading the sources for this section genuinely gave me vertigo because of how closely this ancient text mirrors modern quantum physics.
The parallels are staggering. I mean, long before the electron microscope, the Sutra and the classical Abhidharma commentaries that inform it broke matter down into its absolute smallest constituent parts.
And they call this microdust, or Wei Chen.
Yeah. They proposed a highly analytical atomic theory. They posited that there is an ultimate indivisible unit of matter called an extreme microparticle.
And these are completely invisible to the ordinary physical eye.
Completely invisible. According to the ancient commentaries, even the heavenly eye struggles to isolate a single extreme microparticle. The framework states that 7 of these extreme microparticles aggregate together, 1 in the center, 6 surrounding it, to form 1 microdust.
Okay.
Then 7 of these microdusts combine to form a metal dust. 7 of those form a water dust, cascading endlessly upwards in complexity until they finally cross the threshold into visible matter.
I want to pull in the scholar Nan Weijen's insight here, because he maps this cosmology directly onto modern science, and it fits like a glove.
It really is exactly how we understand chemistry and physics today.
Think about it. You look at a drop of water, you zoom in, you find molecules, you zoom in on the molecule, you find atoms, hydrogen and oxygen.
Right.
You split the atom, you find protons, neutrons, and electrons, you smash those together in a particle accelerator, you find quarks, you try to isolate a quark, and what do you find?
You find essentially empty space and vibrating fields of energy.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. The extreme microparticle of the ancients is the quantum field of today. But the crucial philosophical point the Diamond Sutra makes is not just about physics, it's about attachment.
How so?
The Buddha is saying that this microdust has no inherent independent self-nature. It is just a temporary vibrating condition.
It's just passing through.
Exactly.
And then the text just gives you whiplash. It takes the lens off the microscope and straps it to a telescope.
It really zooms out fast.
It goes from the invisible microdust to the macro universe, introducing the concept of the chiliocosm, or Sankhyan Dakin Shiji, the 3,000 great thousand worlds.
Yeah, let's break down the math on this because it's a staggering vision of the multiverse.
Oh, for it.
According to this ancient cosmology, one small world consists of a sun, a moon, and a central axis called Mount Sumeru. For our purposes, think of it roughly as a solar system.
Okay, one solar system. Got it.
Now take 1,000 of these solar systems. That makes a small chiliocosm.
Okay.
Take 1,000 of those small chiliocosms, and you have a medium chiliocosm.
Following.
Finally, take 1,000 medium chiliocosms, and you get a great chiliocosm.
Wait. 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. That is 1 billion worlds. 1 billion solar systems.
And here is the kicker. In Buddhist cosmology, one great chiliocosm is just the teaching domain of one single Buddha.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There are infinite Buddhas and infinite great chiliocosms stretching across an endless multiverse, numerous as the grains of sand in the Ganges River.
Okay, but as a reader, as someone trying to learn from this, I have to ask, why is the Buddha doing this?
What do you mean?
Why lay out this massive, dizzying scale? Why go from an invisible subatomic speck of dust to 1 billion galaxies in the exact same conversation?
Because he's trying to reveal the fundamental operating system of reality. And to do that, he has to break your reliance on scale.
Break my reliance on scale.
Okay. He deploys a 3-part logical formula here, which is arguably the master key to unlocking the entire Diamond Sutra.
The formula is A non-A, therefore is named A.
Right.
A non-A, therefore is named A. That sounds like a Zen riddle. How does that apply to the dust in the galaxies?
Well, the Buddha says to Siputi, the microdust, the Tathagata says is not microdust, therefore it is called microdust. The Tathagata says the world is not a world, therefore it is called a world.
Okay, walk me through the logic of dust, non-dust, therefore named dust.
It is a systemic dismantling of nouns. Let's look at the dust. Is the dust permanently, inherently, independently dust?
Well, no, because if you zoom in with the wisdom eye, it's just extreme microparticles in empty space.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, it's part of a table or a rock or a planet.
Right.
The state of being dust is a temporary, highly conditional arrangement. So in its ultimate nature, it is non-dust.
Okay, I follow that.
But because we live in a relative world and I need to ask you to sweep the floor, we assign it a temporary linguistic label. Therefore, it is named dust.
So a noun is just a temporary freeze frame of a verb.
Precisely. It's a snapshot. And it works the exact same way for the billion galaxies.
Yeah.
A galaxy is just a temporary aggregation of stars, planets, and cosmic dust. Wait a few billion years, and it disperses or collides with another galaxy.
Right, they crash into each other all the time.
Exactly. It is not fundamentally permanently a galaxy. It is non-galaxy. But right now, for this brief cosmic moment, it holds this shape, so it is named a galaxy.
The profound realization is that neither the smallest quantum fluctuation nor the largest supercluster of galaxies has a permanent self. They're all just temporary conditions.
Yes.
You nailed it.
I mean, I am tracking with the logic. I understand the physics. But I have to push back hard here because this is where philosophy hits the pavement for most of us.
Okay, hit me.
If the universe is just a temporary swirl of empty dust,
Yeah.
if the galaxies are just illusions of scale, why does reality feel so incredibly heavy?
Yes.
Like if I stand up right now and stub my toe on my heavy oak desk, it doesn't feel like a temporary condition of extreme microparticle.
No, it certainly doesn't. It feels like solid, agonizing reality. My toe bleeds, my body feels fixed, my anxieties feel permanent. How do we reconcile the physics of emptiness with the brutal solidity of everyday life?
That is the most important question you can ask. And it brings us to one of the most psychologically incisive concepts in the entire sutra, yi hu xiang, which translates to the one composite appearance.
The one composite appearance. Let's dig deep into this. What exactly is a composite appearance?
It is the cognitive illusion of a singular, solid entity that is created by the temporary aggregation of many different parts.
Okay, give me an example.
The oak desk you just stubbed your toe on feels solid because your physical eye and your nervous system are interacting with a temporary composite of wood fibers, moisture, atomic bonds, and gravity.
Right.
The pain is real in the relative sense, but it is an illusion to think of the desk or your toe as a singular, permanent thing. It is an event.
A very slow-moving event from my perspective, but an event.
Yes, exactly. And the sutra drives this point home specifically regarding the human body and the human ego. We view ourselves as a solid I.
I am me. I am solid.
Right, but the Buddhist framework states that the self is just a composite of the four physical elements, earth, water, fire, and wind, which basically map to solids, liquids, heat, and motion.
Okay, the physical body.
And, crucially, the five skandhas, or psychological aggregates.
Okay, we need to spend some time on the five skandhas, because if we don't understand these, we really can't understand why we suffer.
We really can't.
The five skandhas are form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Explain to me how these five things trick me into thinking I have a solid identity.
Okay.
Walk me through a real-world example. Let's say I get a passive-aggressive email from my boss. What is happening in the skandhas?
This is a perfect example. This is exactly how mindfulness breaks down the illusion. Let's slow that moment down to the millisecond level.
Okay, slow motion.
First, you have form. This is the purely physical reality. Light from your computer screen hits the retina of your physical eye. It's just photons.
Just light. Got it.
Next comes feeling. The brain registers the specific arrangement of words, and your nervous system produces a raw sensation. Before you even have a complete thought, your stomach tightens.
Yeah, that drop in the stomach.
Exactly. It is a raw, unpleasant sensation. Third is perception. This is the labeling function.
What's it labeling?
Your brain accesses its memory banks, recognizes the sender's name, recognizes the passive-aggressive tone, and slaps a label on it. Threat.
So far, it's almost entirely mechanical. It's just data processing.
Exactly. But here is where the ego is born. The fourth skandha is mental formations. This is your volition, your biases, your habitual reactions.
Oh boy, here we go.
Based on the threat label, your mind rapidly constructs a narrative. My boss hates me. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my house. I am a failure. You generate anger, fear, and defensiveness.
That escalated quickly.
It always does. And finally, the fifth skandha, consciousness, is the base awareness that illuminates this entire process. It ties the form, the feeling, the perception, and the mental formation together.
And the illusion is that I take that entire rapid-fire cascade of five distinct processes, bundle them together, and say, I am angry, I am under attack, this is my permanent reality.
Yes.
I create a one composite appearance out of a fleeting chain reaction.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Zheng Zhao, the 4th century master we mentioned earlier, created a brilliant model for this. He talked about realizing the emptiness of sentient beings.
What does that mean?
That means realizing that you are just an aggregate. You are just the five skandhas firing in sequence. There is no little man sitting in the control room of your brain pulling levers.
Wow.
The text explicitly states, the one composite appearance cannot be spoken of, but ordinary people greedily attach to it. We are biologically hardwired to look at composites and demand that they be solid.
I want to use a modern metaphor to explain this because I think it maps perfectly onto how we live today.
Go for it.
Think about a social media algorithm. What does an algorithm do? It tracks millions of tiny, meaningless data points.
Right.
You hovered over a video of a cat for 1.2 seconds. You clicked like on a political article. You bought a pair of shoes. These are the microdust. None of those actions on their own define you.
But the algorithm takes those data points.
Right. The algorithm aggregates them. It compiles millions of points of microdust and builds a highly targeted composite profile. It builds an avatar of you. And then it feeds content back to that avatar.
It's terrifyingly accurate sometimes.
It is. And the tragedy is that we look at the algorithm's composite profile, we look at the curated feed, and we say, yes, that is exactly who I am.
Oh, wow.
We mistake the aggregated profile for our true self.
Yeah.
We fall in love with the composite.
And because we fall in love with the composite, we suffer immensely when it inevitably does what all composites must do: change, age, and disperse.
Which brings us to the most practical, urgent application of this entire deep dive.
Let's do it.
Let's take this massive cosmic philosophy of the composite appearance out of the abstract and bring it directly into our bathrooms.
The bathroom mirror.
Yes. Let's talk about what happens when we look in the mirror. Let's talk about appearance anxiety.
This is where the Diamond Sutra proves it is not just philosophy, it is a clinical psychological tool.
We live in a society plagued by appearance anxiety. We are terrified of aging.
We really are. We are exhausted by the stress of maintaining a highly curated image, whether that's at the gym, in the office, or online.
So I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, and I see a new gray hair. Or I notice my jawline is softening.
Yeah.
Or I see a wrinkle that wasn't there last year.
Yep.
Instantly, my stomach drops. My day is ruined. I feel a profound sense of loss. What is actually happening there through the lens of the sutra?
You are staring at your own one composite appearance, and you are judging it mercilessly through the limited physical eye.
Right.
You are demanding that the algorithm never update. You are demanding that the temporary aggregate of cells, water, and bone remain frozen in a specific configuration that you decided was peak you.
Oh man, that hurts to hear.
It's tough, but it's true. You have attached your absolute sense of self-worth to a temporary swirl of dust.
It's like building a heavy brick house on top of a frozen lake in the middle of spring. You are guaranteed to drown because the foundation is designed to melt.
That is exactly what we do. The antidote to this specific suffering, according to the sutra, is detachment from appearances, or lishang.
How does that work?
The text famously advises us to let the mind function without abiding anywhere. If your body is an ever-changing composite, abiding your entire identity within it is a recipe for misery.
To make this actionable, our sources pull in the insights of contemporary spiritual guide Byron Katie.
Yes, her work is phenomenal for this.
Her method of inquiry, known simply as the work, perfectly mirrors this ancient process of dismantling the composite appearance.
It really does. She points out that the ego fights for its very life when it realizes that the identity it poured so much effort into maintaining is just a fleeting illusion.
The ego is terrified of emptiness.
Terrified, so it generates stressful thoughts to keep the illusion solid. Katie's method involves ruthlessly investigating those stressful thoughts.
Let's role play this. Let's do the bathroom scenario.
Okay, you are in the bathroom. You see the gray hair. The thought arises, I am losing my looks, and therefore I am losing my value as a person.
Okay, that's a very real, very painful thought. How do I use the work on it?
You ask yourself 4 questions. First, is it absolutely true? Can you absolutely know that losing your looks means losing your value?
Honestly, if I push past the panic. No, I can't know that for sure.
Okay, second question. Notice how you react when you believe that thought. What happens?
Oh, I suffer. My chest gets tight. I feel despair. I immediately start Googling expensive anti-aging creams. I might cancel my plans to go out that night because I don't want to be seen. I treat my partner poorly because I'm insecure.
Right. You generate a massive amount of suffering based on a narrative about a physical change.
There's a whole cascade of misery.
But here is the critical pivot, the third question. Who or what would you be in that exact same moment, standing in front of that exact same mirror, without that thought?
Without the thought, I am losing my value.
Yeah, take the thought completely out of the room.
I guess I'm just a person standing in a bathroom. I'm breathing. I'm observing a physical change in pigment on my head.
There is no panic. I'm actually perfectly fine.
Exactly. You realize viscerally that the suffering is not caused by the reality of the changing face.
No, the hair doesn't hurt.
Right. The suffering is caused entirely by your attachment to the concept of the composite appearance. You are reacting to a punishing story you told yourself about the microdust.
Wow. This dovetails beautifully with another modern source we are integrating today, Jon Kabat-Zinn and his groundbreaking work on mindfulness.
Oh, absolutely. In his book, Wherever You Go, There You Are, he provides a working definition of mindfulness that feels like it was written specifically to translate the Diamond Sutra for a modern audience.
Yeah, his definition is key here.
He defines mindfulness as paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally.
Non-judgmentally is the operational key. It answers the question, how do we actually use the wisdom eye in the 21st century?
Right.
Mindfulness is the mechanism. It allows us to step back and observe the components of the composite, the physical sensations, the arising of a thought, the specific shade of a gray hair without instantly triggering the mental formation's skandha.
So we observe without building the stressful, ego-driven narrative.
Exactly.
So instead of looking in the mirror and thinking, I look terrible, I'm fading away, my life is a mess, mindfulness allows you to just observe the data. There's tension in the jaw, there's a gray hair, there's a thought arising about aging.
Right. It's pure awareness without the punishment. You are stepping out of the physical eye and looking through the wisdom eye.
Kabat-Zinn, Byron Katie, Sengzao, and the Buddha are all pointing to the exact same psychological mechanism. The moment you strip away the judgment and the rigid attachment to the composite, you free yourself.
Yes. The pain of aging might still be there in a physical sense, like joints aching, but the emotional suffering evaporates.
Okay, I am with you, but I have to push back again.
Let's hear it.
Because I can hear a listener right now saying, all right, I am an empty aggregate of shifting microdust. My body is an illusion. My anxieties are just temporary algorithms.
Sure.
If I truly internalize that, do I just give up?
What do you mean by give up?
Am I supposed to stop caring entirely? Should I stop brushing my teeth, cancel my gym membership, and show up to work in sweatpants because I'm fundamentally just a pile of cosmic dust? If it's all empty, why do anything?
It is the trap of the wisdom eye all over again.
Spiritual nihilism.
Exactly. And it is the most common misinterpretation of Buddhist emptiness in the West. And it is exactly why the Diamond Sutra pushes us relentlessly toward the Dharma eye and the Buddha eye. Realizing emptiness does not mean becoming apathetic. Nanhua Jin makes this point emphatically in his commentary. He calls it the paradox of non-doing.
The paradox of non-doing. How do you act with purpose while knowing it's all an illusion?
You act through the bodhisattva path. The bodhisattva uses the Dharma eye to act with immense energy, love, and engagement in the world precisely because they know it is a dream.
That feels a little counterintuitive.
Think about it. Why do we usually hold back? Why do we stress over our careers or our looks?
Because we are terrified of losing.
Because we are terrified of losing our permanent self. But if you deeply realize you don't have a permanent self to lose, you become fearless.
Our sources quote a stunning line to describe this state. Actualizing the truth without attaching to a single dust mote, performing all actions without abandoning a single method.
Yes. You still brush your teeth, you still go to the gym, you still try to look presentable for your partner, you still fight for justice in your career.
But the energy behind it shifts.
Entirely. You do it with a profound lightness of being, you care for the vehicle of your body, but you don't worship it. You don't attach your ultimate salvation to the state of your physical composite.
Let's upgrade an old metaphor here to really nail this down. Think about going to a movie theater.
Okay.
When you sit down in that seat, logically, with your wisdom eye, that the movie isn't real. It's just a composite of digital pixels projected onto a flat, blank canvas. It's digital dust.
Right.
If a monster appears on screen, you don't jump out of your seat and run out of the theater because you know it's an illusion.
But knowing it isn't real doesn't mean you sit there with your arms crossed, refusing to watch the movie.
Exactly. In fact, knowing that you are fundamentally safe in your seat is the only reason you can actually enjoy the movie.
Oh, that's a great point.
Because you aren't in actual mortal danger. You allow yourself to engage with the illusion. You laugh at the jokes. You cry at the tragedy. You feel your heart race during the car chase. You engage completely, passionately, with the story on the screen, but you aren't traumatized when the credits roll because you know it was a projection.
That is the perfect encapsulation of the Buddha eye. You are sitting in the theater of the great chiliocosm.
I love that. The theater of the great chiliocosm.
You are watching the swirling aggregates of microdust form galaxies, planets, and your own body. You know it is a projection.
And because you know that, you can engage with the drama of your life.
Your family, your art, your struggles, you engage with total passion and a boundless compassion. But you do it without the suffocating, paralyzing terror of attachment.
To bring this entire philosophy home, the Diamond Sutra concludes its teachings on the nature of reality with one of the most famous four-line poems, or gathas, in Eastern history.
Yes, it provides 6 metaphors for how we should view all conditioned phenomena.
Meaning everything in the universe that is created by causes and conditions, which is everything.
The sutra says, All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, a dewdrop, or a flash of lightning. Thus shall ye think of them.
A dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, a dewdrop, a flash of lightning. What connects all 6 of those things?
They are undeniably beautiful. They exist in their own way momentarily.
But they are entirely, fundamentally ungraspable.
Exactly. You cannot hold a flash of lightning in a box. You cannot put a morning dewdrop in a bank vault to save it for retirement.
If you try to grasp a bubble to keep it safe, your very grasping destroys it.
And this realization is not meant to depress you. It is meant to bring ultimate freedom.
Because when you finally stop demanding that the dewdrop last forever, you are free to actually appreciate its shimmering beauty in the morning sun.
You can live your life fully, knowing it is a brilliant, temporary play of microdust.
Wow. We have covered a monumental amount of ground today. Let's briefly retrace our steps.
Good idea.
We started by realizing we need to upgrade our operating system, moving from the fearful, surface-level physical eye through the void-seeing wisdom eye up to the compassionate, integrating Buddha eye.
We then use those upgraded lenses to look at the mechanics of the universe, breaking matter down into invisible extreme microparticles and building it back up into the staggering scale of 1 billion galaxies.
We learned the logical formula that liberates us from nouns. Dust is not inherently dust, therefore it is named dust.
From there, we shattered the illusion of the one composite appearance, exploring how the 5 skandhas trick us into mistaking a temporary algorithm of pixels for a permanent self.
And finally, we brought this cosmic wisdom into the bathroom mirror, using Byron Katie and John Kabat-Zinn to dismantle our appearance anxiety, learning how to fully engage with the movie of our lives without being traumatized by the plot twists.
It is a complete paradigm shift. We are moving from a heavy, exhausting worldview of fixed permanence to a light, flowing worldview of emptiness and profound connection.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought derived directly from the text.
The Sutra drops an absolute bombshell regarding the nature of time and the self right at the end.
It says, "The mind of the past is ungraspable. The mind of the present is ungraspable. The mind of the future is ungraspable."
This is the ultimate challenge to our ego. If your physical body is just temporary microdust, and your mind, your thoughts, your memories, your anxieties about tomorrow is also just a temporary aggregate of mental dust that vanishes the exact millisecond it appears.
Then who exactly is the you that is listening to my voice right now? I want you to mull that over. Take that question for a walk. Who is the observer?
And as you go out into your day, I encourage you to take your newly upgraded Dharma eye with you.
The next time you feel that spike of stress, the next time you look in the mirror and feel that familiar wave of anxiety, or the next time someone sends you an infuriating email, try to pause. Step back.
Look at that stressor not as a solid, permanent monster coming to destroy you, but as a temporary passing cloud of dust.
See what happens when you decide not to grasp the bubble.
See what happens when you allow the mind to function without abiding anywhere.
I want you to do one last thing before we go. Lift up your hand. Look closely at it again. What do you see now?